This is Miss Anna, and today I want to talk about something a lot of women do without ever calling it what it is, testing the man they are with, and what it actually costs them when the man being tested is a genuinely good one. Testing does not usually look dramatic. It looks like small manufactured moments designed to answer a question she has not said out loud. Will he notice if I pull back a little? Will he chase if I go cold? Will he still show up if I make this harder than it needs to be? Will he prove he cares by pushing through something I put in his way on purpose? Most women who do this are not doing it to be cruel. Often it comes from somewhere reasonable, an old wound, a past relationship where someone did not show up, a fear that good things do not last unless they are constantly checked for cracks. Testing feels from the inside like protecting herself, like due diligence, like making sure before she trusts completely. But here is what she rarely considers and what I want to walk through honestly today. A good man is not the man who needs to be tested the most carefully. He is the man who needs it the least, and testing him anyway does not reveal his character. It slowly erodes something that was already there. Think about what a genuinely good man actually is. He is present. He is consistent. He does not require games to stay engaged, because he was never planning to leave in the first place. He shows up on ordinary Tuesdays the same way he shows up on anniversaries, not because he is trying to pass an evaluation, but because showing up is simply who he is. Now place a man like that inside a pattern of being tested. The manufactured coldness he has to push through, the manufactured distance he has to close, the small crisis that appears out of nowhere on a night that had been calm an hour earlier. He does not know it is a test. He only experiences it as instability, as a relationship where the ground occasionally and unpredictably shifts beneath him for reasons he cannot identify. The first few times he responds well. He reaches for her. He asks what is wrong. He tries to close the distance because closing distance is what a good man does. And if he passes, if he proves himself, the relationship goes back to feeling stable, at least for a while, until the next test arrives. Here is what accumulates underneath that pattern that she does not see. Every test he passes teaches him nothing except that another test is likely coming. It does not build his trust in the relationship. It builds his vigilance. He starts to notice a specific kind of unpredictability that has nothing to do with anything he did, and everything to do with something he cannot name or address, because the actual concern driving it was never spoken out loud to him at all. A good man can pass a lot of tests. What he eventually cannot do is keep proving himself to someone who requires proof on a recurring basis with no expiration date, because there is no version of passing that ends the requirement. There is only the next test and the one after that, and a man watching that pattern eventually reaches an honest and painful conclusion. Nothing he does is going to produce lasting certainty here, because the uncertainty was never actually about him. It was about something in her that testing him was never going to resolve. And this is the part that costs her the most, if she does not see it in time. The good man does not usually leave in anger. He does not usually leave loudly. He leaves the way good men often leave, quietly, gradually, the effort declining a little at a time as he learns the effort here is never quite enough to produce lasting peace. By the time she notices, he has stopped chasing, stopped reassuring, stopped closing the distance the way he used to. She often reads it as him failing the test. What actually happened is that he simply ran out of ways to prove something that was never provable to begin with. I want to say clearly, because this deserves honesty in both directions, that testing usually comes from somewhere real. A past betrayal, a parent who was inconsistent, an old relationship where trust was violated and never adequately repaired. The impulse to check whether this one is different is not an irrational impulse. It comes from a real place, and it deserves to be treated with compassion rather than judgment. But compassion for where the behavior comes from does not change what the behavior does to the relationship in front of her right now. A good man is not made more trustworthy by being tested repeatedly. He is made tired by it. And a woman who wants to keep a good man does not need to test him less because he has not earned trust. She needs to test him less because trust that requires constant re-verification is not actually trust. It is surveillance wearing trust's name, and no relationship, however good the man inside it, survives being surveilled indefinitely. If you recognize this pattern in yourself, the work is not learning to test more cleverly so he cannot tell. The work is going back to the original wound that made trusting someone feel unsafe in the first place and healing that directly, rather than routing it through a man who did nothing to deserve being its proving ground. The good men who stay are not staying because they passed every test perfectly. They are staying with women who eventually learn to let trust be given rather than extracted, one manufactured crisis at a time. I want to hear from the men watching this. If you have felt tested in a relationship, was there a specific moment you remember deciding you were done proving yourself? Tell me in the comments. And to the women watching, one honest question. If you are testing him right now, what are you actually trying to find out? And has testing ever once given you a real answer? Sit with that before you answer it. This is Miss Anna, and I will be back with more of what nobody else will say. Subscribe if you are ready to keep hearing it.